Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi lays the foundation stone of Kaziranga Elevated Corridor project in Assam, inaugurates multimodal projects for West Bengal, targets Mamata Banerjee's TMC government over infiltrators. US pushes its Gaza plan over Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's objections. Washington invites 60 countries to join Gaza Peace Board. Eight European nations voice objections to US Greenland tariffs. French President Emmanuel Macron wants EU to use anti-coercion instrument against these tariffs. And attacks on minorities continue unabated in Bangladesh. 2 Hindus killed in the last 2 days. Minorities hold protest rally, demand action against violence. So our first news from West Asia. In a bid to restore peace and stability in Gaza, the United States is inviting some 60 world leaders to join the newly formed Gaza Board of Peace. Jordan and Pakistan were among the countries asked to participate today. The Trump administration has also proposed a $1 billion contribution for permanent membership on this board. Israel has raised objections to the panel's composition, saying the Gaza Executive Board was announced without coordination and it contradicts Israel's government policy. A report.
In a major diplomatic move aimed at restoring stability in Gaza, US President Donald Trump invited King Abdullah of Jordan and Prime Minister of Pakistan Shehbaz Sharif to join the newly created Gaza Board of Peace. Leaders from more than 60 countries have been invited to participate in the council. On Sunday, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said that he supports the Board of Peace for Gaza in principle, though the specific details are still being finalized. The Gaza Board of Peace is being set up to oversee security, governance, and reconstruction in Gaza following a UN-backed ceasefire under Trump's 20-point peace plan. Trump's proposed Board of Peace would allow countries to secure long-term membership by contributing more than $1 billion. According to a draft charter for the proposed group, President Donald Trump would serve as its inaugural chairman and would decide on who is invited to be the members. Earlier on Friday, President Trump invited the leaders of Egypt, Turkey, and Argentina to join the Board of Peace and oversee the transitional government in the war-ravaged Palestinian territory. He also named to the Board of Peace his Secretary of State Marco Rubio, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and senior negotiators Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, most of whom are also on the Gaza Executive Board. Trump said that the Board of Peace would support a newly appointed Palestinian technocratic government known as the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza to govern the territory during a transitional period. He said that the committee would work under the supervision of the board's high representative. Meanwhile, on Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened a meeting of his ruling coalition partners after objecting to the composition of the Gaza Advisory Panel. The office of the Israeli Prime Minister said that the announcement regarding the composition of the Gaza Executive Board, which is subordinate to the Board of Peace, was not coordinated with Israel and runs contrary to its policy. The office of Netanyahu said that the Prime Minister has instructed the Foreign Affairs Minister to contact the US Secretary of State in this regard. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, an Iranian official on Sunday said that at least 5,000 people have been killed during nationwide protests, including around 500 security personnel. The official accused terrorists and armed rioters for killing innocent Iranians. However, rights groups have disputed official casualty figures, with some reports suggesting the death toll to be higher. Earlier, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei blamed US President Donald Trump for weeks of protests after rights groups said a violent crackdown by security forces had claimed thousands of lives. In another development, Iranian authorities have said that they were considering gradually restoring internet access after imposing an unprecedented nationwide communications blackout during the unrest in the last few weeks. Limited connectivity was reported in Tehran, with international calls and text messaging partially restored, while officials said local messaging apps would soon be activated on Iran's intranet. Meanwhile, across Europe, thousands of exiled Iranians have taken to the streets to shout out their rage at the government of the Islamic Republic. On Sunday, exiled Iranians demonstrated for freedom and democracy in their homeland in front of Berlin's Brandenburg Gate. Protesters raised slogans demanding a democratic and independent Iran. After weeks of a news blackout in Iran, protesters said that it was the duty of exiled Iranians to amplify the voices of protesters abroad. People condemned the killing of several thousand demonstrators in Iran and called on the European Union to remain vigilant and maintain maximum pressure on Iran. On to Syria now. President Ahmad al-Shara issued a decree affirming the rights of the Kurdish Syrians, formally recognizing their language and restoring citizenship to all Kurdish Syrians. State news agency Sana reported that Shara's decree came after fierce clashes that broke out last week in the northern city of Aleppo, leaving at least 23 people dead. It also forced more than 150,000 to flee the two Kurdish-run pockets of the city. The clashes ended after Kurdish fighters withdrew. The decree, for the first time, grants Kurdish Syrians rights, including recognition of Kurdish identity as part of Syria's national fabric. It designates Kurdish as a national language alongside Arabic and allows schools to teach it. The decree declares Navroz, the Spring and New Year festival, a paid national holiday. It bans ethnic or linguistic discrimination, requires state institutions to adopt inclusive national messaging, and sets penalties for incitement to ethnic strife. Further, French President Emmanuel Macron has called for a permanent ceasefire in Syria after speaking with President Ahmad al-Shara. Macron warned that the country's unity and stability are at risk amid a Syrian government offensive against Western-backed Kurdish forces. The French president said that the offensive needed to stop and that neither France nor the European Union could support the continuation of such an approach. Macron's comments come as Syrian government forces took control of key strategic sites in the north, capturing the city of Tabqa, its dam, and the Freedom Dam near Raqqa, before seizing the country's largest oil field, Al Omar. Meanwhile, state media of Syria said that 2 civilians were killed by the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, in the northern city of Raqqa on Sunday. Hundreds of Tunisians marched through the streets of Tunis on Sunday, denouncing President Kais Saied and accusing him of ruling by dictatorship. Chanting slogans, the supporters of the opposition Free Constitutional Party are calling for the release of their leader, Abir Maussi, and political prisoners. There were similar protests late last year when a wave of demonstrations swept through the country, with opponents accusing the president of cementing one-man rule by using the judiciary and police. The opposition says Saied has undermined the independence of the judiciary. In 2021, he dismissed the government and froze parliament. In 2022, he dissolved the Supreme Judicial Council and sacked dozens of judges, moves that opposition groups and rights advocates have condemned as a coup. Amnesty International has said that the crackdown on rights groups has reached critical levels, with arbitrary arrests, detentions, asset freezes, banking restrictions, and suspensions targeting 14 non-government organizations. Saied has rejected all these criticisms, saying he is cleansing Tunisia of what he called traitors. Shifting focus. European leaders are pushing back after US President Donald Trump warned of steep tariffs on key European allies over their opposition to his push to acquire Greenland. Meanwhile, world leaders have warned that the move could escalate trade tensions and undermine transatlantic ties. DD India's Rupak Kumar Jha reports.
Ambassadors from the European Union's 27 countries convene on Sunday for an emergency meeting after US President Donald Trump vowed a wave of increasing tariffs on European allies until the United States is allowed to buy Greenland. US President Trump announced that a 10% tariff on goods from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, and Finland would come into force on 1st of February, but could later rise to 25% and would last until a deal was reached. European leaders reacted strongly to US President Donald Trump's tariff warning on European countries over their opposition to his push to acquire Greenland. Meanwhile, 8 European nations, including France, Germany, Norway, Britain, and others, in a joint statement on Sunday, said they stood in solidarity with the Kingdom of Denmark and the people of Greenland following US President Donald Trump's proposition to annex the Arctic island. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni cautioned Washington against economic retaliation, calling it a mistake. Speaking in Seoul, Meloni said she had personally conveyed her concerns to Trump, while also attempting to ease tensions by citing communication gaps.
I wanted to tell you that the perspective of an increase in tariffs for countries that have chosen to contribute to Greenland's security, in my views, it is a mistake and I do not agree with it.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron also reacted strongly to the tariff warnings, showing solidarity with Greenland. The Foreign Affairs Minister of Netherlands, David Van Wiel, said that US President Trump's warning to impose new tariffs on European allies on the Greenland issue is inappropriate.
This is not how allies should treat each other. And in that sense, I understand the word blackmail. Yes, absolutely. We have until February 1st to really present a united front, to make it clear that we do not find this acceptable. And we have also stated that, as far as we are concerned, the territorial integrity and self-determination of Greenland and Denmark are not up for discussion.
Meanwhile, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said that Canada will always support the sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries.
We're concerned. We're concerned about this escalation, to be absolutely clear. We always will support sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries wherever their geographic location is. The future of Greenland, decisions about the future of Greenland are for Greenland and Denmark to decide.
The standoff underscores rising tensions between Washington and its European allies, with trade and territorial claims now colliding on the Arctic front. Rupak Kumar Jha's report for DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour, still to come on the show. Pentagon readies 1,500 troops for potential Minnesota deployment. Portugal votes in tight presidential race with the far right poised to reach the runoff. And US President Donald Trump's presence expected to raise the stakes at the World Economic Forum 2026 at Davos.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. The US media reported on Sunday that Pentagon has ordered about 1,500 active duty soldiers to prepare for a possible deployment to Minnesota, the site of large protests against the government's deportation drive. The Army placed the units on prepare to deploy orders in case violence in northern state escalates. It is not clear whether any of the troops will actually be sent. The White House said in a statement that it is typical for the Pentagon to be prepared for any decision the president may or may not make. President Trump had warned on Thursday to use the Insurrection Act to deploy military forces if officials in the state do not stop protesters from targeting immigration officials after a surge in Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) agents. Confrontations between residents and federal officers have become increasingly tense in Minneapolis, Minnesota's most populous city, after an ICE agent fatally shot Renee Good, a U.S. citizen and mother of 3, on January 7th as she was driving away after being ordered to exit her car. In Portugal, voters queued at polling stations on Sunday to elect a new president, with opinion surveys showing 3 candidates, including the leader of the far-right Chega party, nearly tied for a spot in a likely top 2 runoff. Around 11 million voters are eligible to cast ballots. The last pre-election opinion survey released on Friday put socialist Antonio José Seguro on 25%, followed by Chega leader André Ventura on 23%, and João Cotrem de Figueiredo, a member of the European Parliament from the right-wing pro-business Liberal Initiative Party, on 22%. Some other polls over the past week showed Ventura slightly ahead, but always within the margin of error, and all runoff projections point to him losing due to his high rejection rate of more than 60%. Final preparations are underway in Davos as the Swiss town gets ready to welcome guests for the World Economic Forum 2026 in Davos. This year's edition is taking place from January 19th to 23rd. Weeks after attacking Venezuela, capturing its leader, reviving Greenland ambitions, US President Donald Trump's presence is expected to raise the stakes even further. A report. The Swiss alpine town of Davos is once again welcoming the cream of the political, economic and cultural world for the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum, WEF. The event is taking place at a time when US President Donald Trump is seeking to dismantle the international order. Trump will return to Davos 6 years after his previous in-person appearance during his first term. He leads the largest U.S. delegation ever to Davos, comprising Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, setting the stage for high-profile discussions on Ukraine, Venezuela, Gaza, and Iran. The strong U.S. presence would be complemented by the first-ever USA House, a venue housed in a small church on the town's main promenade street. But no bilateral meetings have been scheduled for Davos this time, stated the White House. Dubbing its 56th edition a spirit of dialogue, the WEF's leaders say that given the current uncertainty, gathering together to map out a way forward in business and politics is crucial.
Today's world, the private sector is also critical to finding solutions. Many countries are more indebted than at any other time since 1945, while the private sector has a lot of resources. So public-private partnership and to work together is critically important. I think this has been one of the things that President Trump has underlined being important by coming to Davos.
Trump will be joined by more than 60 heads of state and government, including German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Meanwhile, some 600 protesters marched in eastern Switzerland to reach the resort town of Davos, but were quickly dispersed by a large-scale police deployment.
For us, it is important to be able to speak out against the voice of the World Economic Forum, to demonstrate that the decisions made there are not democratic. that many interests that are represented there are not ours, but those of corporations and lobbyists.
While geopolitical upheavals and the ensuing uncertainty are expected to dominate discussions, policymakers and business leaders would be keen to discuss ways to deal with other challenges confronting the global economy. The global economy has been relatively resilient despite heightened trade tensions, thanks in part to massive investments related to AI in the US, which have propped up the world's biggest economy. But the projected global growth of 3.1% in 2026 is still not idle, with the US and China increasingly leveraging power to suit national interests. World Economic Forum 2026 risks obsolescence. Tanvi Taneja for DD India. Well, India is set to mount one of its strongest representations at this year's World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos, with union ministers, state chief ministers, and more than 100 corporate leaders scheduled to attend the global gathering. Union ministers Prahlad Joshi, K. Ram Mohan Naidu, and Maharashtra's Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis arrived at Zurich in Switzerland to participate in the World Economic Forum this year. All the three leaders were warmly received at the airport by Indian Ambassador to Switzerland, Mridul Kumar. In a post on X, Devendra Fadnavis said that he was deeply touched by the enthusiastic welcome and affectionate traditional greeting by Marathi sisters and brothers at the picturesque town of Zurich. On to South America now. Mercosur and the European Union signed a historic trade agreement in Paraguay on Saturday, concluding more than 25 years of negotiations. The signed deal will boost trade, investment and cooperation between Mercosur and the EU blocs. But there's also opposition to the pact within certain sections of Europe. Farmers in France and Ireland warn the deal could expose local agriculture to unfair competition.
Mercosur and the European Union signed a landmark trade agreement in Asunción, creating the world's largest free trade area, covering more than 700 million people and nearly 20% of global GDP, with the main objective to cut tariffs on most goods traded between the two blocs.
We are creating the largest free trade zone in the world. This agreement sends a very strong message to the world. It reflects a clear and deliberate choice. We choose fair trade over tariffs. We choose a productive, long-term partnership over isolation.
Relations between the EU and Mercosur date back to 1999, when a framework cooperation agreement came into force. After years of stalled talks, progress resumed in recent years. On 9th January 2026, the EU Council approved both for signature, paving the way for Saturday's ceremony in Paraguay.
But I want to insist on something. It is fundamental that during the implementation stage, the spirit of what was negotiated is preserved. The incorporation of mechanisms that restrict the access, such as quotas, safeguards, or measures of equivalent effect, will significantly reduce the economic impact of the agreement and will undermine its essential objective. We have to ensure in our parliaments that this does not happen.
The new EU-Mercosur agreement is critical for both sides, as it is expected to yield many beneficial results like boosting trade and investment, supporting economic growth and job creation, enhances competitiveness by securing supply chains and diversifying sources of energy and raw materials. Radical shift with unprecedented commitments to fight climate change, including tackling deforestation and reinforcing political, economic and cultural ties between the two regions. The deal has also sparked opposition within the European Union. In France, farmers had protested in Paris, warning the deal could expose local agriculture to unfair competition. In Ireland, thousands of Irish farmers, many of whom travelled across the country on tractors, protested against the European Union's Mercosur trade deal. As the agreements move towards ratification, both the European Union and Mercosur say they hope the deal will boost trade, investment and cooperation across two continents. Bureau Report, DD India.
NASA's Space Launch System rocket, standing 322 feet tall and weighing 11 million pounds, successfully rolled out to Launch Pad 39B at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida on Saturday. The massive vehicle carrying the Orion spacecraft moved slowly at about 1 mile per hour on a crawler transporter over a 4-mile journey that lasted around 12 hours, emerging at sunrise amid crowds of onlookers. This milestone advances preparations for the Artemis II mission, NASA's first crewed lunar flight in over 50 years. The 4-person crew will embark on a 10-day journey around the moon without landing, venturing farther from Earth than any human has ever done before. A critical wet dress rehearsal involving propellant loading and countdown simulation is scheduled for early February, determining readiness for the earliest launch opportunity on the 6th of February. Back to Asia Pacific. Attacks on minorities continue unabated in Bangladesh as a Hindu hotelier was allegedly beaten to death following a dispute over a trivial issue in Bangladesh's Ghazipur on Saturday. Police have arrested 3 people in connection with the incident. The deceased has been identified as Liton Chandra Ghosh of the Chandaya area. According to the victim's family, the dispute escalated when Liton tried to intervene to calm the situation, during which he was struck on the head with a shovel and he died on the spot. Police said preparations are underway to file a case in the matter. Meanwhile, various minority communities in Bangladesh gathered in front of the National Press Club in Dhaka, demanding immediate government action to stop the rising violence, anarchy and discrimination across the country. The protest rally was organized by the Bangladesh Minority Lawyers Unity Alliance, chaired by its convener, freedom fighter and senior Supreme Court lawyer Dr. J.K. Pal, and moderated by Alliance member Secretary Advocate Suman Kumar Roy. Senior lawyers, minority leaders and representatives of several organizations attended this demonstration and expressed solidarity for rising minority violence in the country. Staying in the region, the Sher Bahadur Deoba-led faction of Nepal's Congress party has moved to the Supreme Court, challenging the Election Commission's decision to grant official status to the Gagan Thapa faction. The writ petition seeks annulment of the decision and suspension of candidate nominations for the January 20th election, arguing that the party's newly elected Central Working Committee is unlawful. The Supreme Court is scheduled to hold a preliminary hearing on the petition next Tuesday. The challenge follows a special general convention held from January 12th to 14th, where Gagan Thapa was elected party president unopposed. And next we take a look at what else is making news around the world. North Korean students staged a performance in Pyongyang to mark the 80th founding anniversary of the Socialist Patriotic Youth League on Sunday. Students were seen dancing, singing and playing instruments on the stage at the Central Youth Hall. Paddle boarders from across Europe and beyond participated in the Glagla Race 2026 in the icy waters of Lake Annecy in France. Held annually in winter, the Glagla Race tests both physical endurance and mental resilience as athletes race across long distances on the cold alpine waters. The event drew hundreds of participants, highlighting the growing popularity of extreme water sports. A small village in northern Croatia came alive with bells, horns and cheering as locals marked the annual Didi Kamenis Carnival, one of Central Europe's most unusual end-of-the-winter traditions. Men dressed as Didi, or old men wearing ram skin headdresses decorated with ribbons, moved from house to house searching for a bridegroom. And in Vietnam, residents in Hanoi explored a mini India right in the heart of the city. The India Fair 2026 in Thongnath Park, organized by the Embassy of India, offers a vibrant space for cultural exchange from cuisine and traditional arts to yoga and henna painting. You're with us on DD India News Hour. Still to come on the show. US pushes its Gaza plan over Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's objections. We discuss the Gaza peace plan with our expert. UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan to visit India. And thousands observe Mauni Amavasya across India, taking holy dips and offering prayers at the Sangam confluence.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. Arey, it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. Going back to one of our top stories, the US administration has reached out to various figures around the world to sit on a so-called Board of Peace meant to oversee governance and reconstruction in post-war Gaza. And to discuss the prospects of Gaza peace plan, we are joined by our guest, Dr. K. Jangir, expert on West Asia in the O.P. Jindal Global University in Haryana. Welcome, sir, to the program. First of all, what would you say were the broad considerations in deciding on the composition of the Gaza Executive Board?
Thank you, Tanvi. Good evening. Well, like most of the Trump diplomatic initiatives, this seems very bold and new. I think the blessing in this is that this is the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire. So I think more than what it will do, what is important to acknowledge that it has stopped the fight between Gaza and Israel. Israel certainly is not comfortable with this Board of Peace. In fact, the mandate that the United Nations gave and Trump's 20 points plan doesn't mention particularly the word Gaza in it. It seems like that this Board of Peace will be, governing many other conflicts or will be advising Donald Trump on many other conflicts. But we practically understand that it's all about Gaza. Now, I was in Israel for a month and I just came back yesterday while meeting some of the people at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Israel. There is a bit of a suspicion about the whole thing because of the involvement of Turkey. Forget about the fact that today we have a news that Pakistan, a country that doesn't have relations with Israel, a country that doesn't recognize Israel, a country that criminalizes travel to Israel by any Pakistani, is also invited. So I really fail to understand what Trump is trying to achieve with it in Gaza, but he certainly has something else in mind for larger coalition of the like-minded or leaders that agree to his, foreign policy wisdom.
So, do you see President Trump heeding to Israel's reservations or objections to the composition of the Gaza Executive Board?
Well, according to some of his senior most, advisors who have been involved in this Board of Peace, they didn't consult Israel before declaring it out, which seems quite a diplomatic disaster for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who does in a way claim a very direct relationship with Donald Trump. The fact that Americans have kept Israel out of knowledge on the final list of the parties seems to be the signal of a discomfort between Trump and Netanyahu. According to sources, they want to tell Israel that it is no more Israel's show in Gaza. It would be an American show. Now, I have a problem with their vocabulary. To call the tragedy in Gaza a show means something else. But But let's understand that right now what Trump is doing, Israel doesn't really agree to it. And we will soon hear the statement of Israeli Prime Minister in a day, I suppose.
All right. Moving to Trump's proposed board of peace, well, he has invited Egypt, Turkey, Argentina to join the board. There is Jordan, Romania, Turkish president also invited. What would you say influenced his choice of these countries?
Well, if we look at Turkey and Qatar, these are the two countries that have been extremely, yes countries to Donald Trump. If you look at the more interesting case of Pakistan, I think Pakistan is a country that has already nominated him for the Nobel Prize for Peace. Not only that, Pakistan has acknowledged his role in the ceasefire. So, in a way, he's picking up his favorites, the countries that really don't disagree with him in public, the countries that stand with him on all political fronts in international forums. What I'm more intrigued is the invitation to the Canadian leader.
Yes, of course. I was coming to that. He is not, in fact, he has been in China recently and is forging alliances there. So Canadian Mark Carney is not one of his yes man.
Indeed. And that's really the puzzle. In fact, if I look at the news in India today, and I think it was NDTV that said, apparently India has also been sent the invitation. We would know maybe tomorrow by Ministry of External Affairs if that's the case. I wouldn't be surprised if he invited India. I think he also invited India for this very famous summit in Egypt, the Sharm el-Sheikh summit where his famous ceasefire was signed. But coming back to Canada, I think he also understands that only the regional countries and only the yes countries to Donald Trump will make this board of peace less, legitimate. European countries are not going to join because of the Greenland issue, and he has already, announced 10% tariff on Germany and France. So I think these are the countries that are not going to accept his invitation. But for some reason, Canada is willing to, and they said, we have got it, we confirm, and we are working on the details. So I think Canada is a country that he really found in a sweet spot, and Canadians are careful not to decline it.
All right. President Trump will be serving as the inaugural chairman of the Gaza Board of Peace and will decide on who is invited to be a member. He's also asked for $1 billion membership criteria to be on the board. Knowing what we do, your comments on what are likely to be these criteria for membership, if you could explain, are members going to align with this charter?
No, I don't think so. He's really, that's very, very unpredictable Trump. Now, $1 billion is a huge money, and I don't think these countries are going to pay this much and get into this board, which in any case is going to really run into a lot of troubles. So I don't really understand what kind of game he is up to, but let's understand this. What does Gaza need, or what does this Board of Peace need in order to succeed? It needs a lot of money to rebuild Gaza. Now, for that, UAE and Saudi Arabia are the most capable and also most willing to give this money. Not Egypt. Egypt is a very poor country at the moment. So
And what about Qatar?
Well, Qatar is very rich, and yes, they would give any money that Trump would ask them to give. But I do think that by making such an announcement, he's also making it legit for many leaders, saying that, look, it's not all what Trump threw at other countries. We are paying a great amount of price to rebuild the lives in Gaza. So I think it is to create optics for the countries that will join. But look at the more critical part. Hamas has refused disarmament. And what would be more critical part of this arrangement is called a stabilization force. Now, for that, he's picking up somebody who's a commander of the US forces. So I'm more curious to know what would that stabilization force mean? Will it also have soldiers from various these countries that are joining the Board of Peace? Will these countries, send their soldiers to stand and maybe have a direct fight with Hamas that doesn't really agree to complete disarmament? So I think there is a bit of a gray area in what he's announcing. Maybe he's throwing big words, and the real battle in Gaza is still open-ended between Hamas and what's going to be the stabilization force against.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Israeli Prime Minister here. After objecting to the composition of the Gaza Executive Board, Netanyahu convened a meeting of his ruling coalition partners. How much pressure would you say Netanyahu is likely to encounter from Israel's far-right governing coalition regarding the Executive Board's composition?
Well, he's going to really have a hard moment there. However, those hardliners will not cause any fall of the government. Let's understand, the hardliners are there in the government, and they have, by all means, not given any tangible threat to, fall the government. So I don't think he will fear for his government in Israel. In any case, in less than 8 months, Israel is due for its national general elections in the month of October this year. He's actually completing a full term, surprisingly, after all what happened to the country. I would say that it's more for his politics. If he goes to elections, and he has to go to elections, it would be very hard for him to sell his image as this very powerful international diplomat who has a full backing of Donald Trump. So I think personally, for his re-election, it's a bad news. For the current coalition, it will just be fine.
Okay, overall, how do you see the latest developments regarding the future of Gaza? Do they give you any hope regarding Gaza's future?
Well, there isn't hope for Gaza's political future. If we see this, Gaza is part of the larger Palestinian question. And what Trump has cleverly done here is that he has not touched that very fundamental question, and he's now dragged attention to rebuilding of Gaza with this International Board of Peace. International Board of Peace doesn't talk about what would be the eventual roadmap for the resolution of the Israel-Palestine conflict. So I think it's a very, very dim hope for the Palestinian issue, and for the lives of the Gazans right now is about water, living conditions, health, education, and medicines. So I think for the people of Gaza, if the aid comes, if this board of governance will get money, and their lives will be really stabilized, I think that would be a grace for them more than anything else at the moment.
All right. We hope the future of Gaza returns to normalcy sooner than later. Thank you very much, Dr. K. Jahangir, for being with us on DD India News. I really appreciate you giving us your valuable time. All right, let's move on now. Prime Minister Modi concluded his 2-day Bengal visit on Sunday. From the grounds of Singur, Prime Minister Modi not only promised a safe, secure and developed West Bengal to the citizens, but also inaugurated various development projects worth over 830 crore rupees. DD India's Deepika Mehto reports.
From the grounds of West Bengal Singur, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of infrastructure projects worth over 830 crore rupees in the ports, shipping, inland waterways and rail sector. Not only this, PM Modi also flagged off 3 new Amrit Bharat Express trains and 1 new passenger train service for the development and better connectivity of West Bengal. Addressing the people on the occasion, PM Modi said that these initiatives will make Hooghly a warehousing and trading hub, ensuring crores of investment, job opportunities to the youth, benefits to small traders and the opening of new markets for the farmers.
सीमलेस ट्रांसपोर्टेशन संभव हो सके, इसके लिए पोर्ट, नदी जलमार्ग, हाईवे और एयरपोर्ट्स, इन सभी को आपस में कनेक्ट किया जा रहा है। इससे लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट और ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में लगने वाले टाइम दोनों में कमी आ रही है। साथियों, हमारी कोशिश ये भी है कि हमारे ट्रांसपोर्ट के माध्यम नेचर फ्रेंडली भी हो।
The localites of Singur, who came in large numbers to attend the public rally and to listen to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, expressed happiness on the initiative and said that this will hugely benefit the state.
He is thinking above many of us what we think. उससे बहुत ज़्यादा सोचता है और बहुत अच्छा है. Development is always good for us and for our country.
After talking about development and inaugurating various development-led projects for West Bengal, PM Modi addressed a public rally where he lashed out at the TMC government for increasing crime records in the state, violence and unprogressive state of Bengal. He also recalled the Singur incident and said that industrialists can only come here when there is better law and order situation. PM Modi said that once the BJP government comes to power, they will not only ensure good governance but also open new door of opportunities for the women, youth and the people of Bengal.
लेकिन यहाँ की टीएमसी सरकार केंद्र सरकार की योजनाओं को आप तक ठीक से पहुंचने ही नहीं देती। अगर इनको मोदी से परेशानी है, ये तो मैं समझ सकता हूं। इनको बीजेपी से दुश्मनी है, ये भी समझ में आता है। लेकिन टीएमसी तो बंगाल के लोगों से अपनी दुश्मनी निकाल रही है।
After listening to PM Modi's speech, the local residents of West Bengal and especially Singur said that they want BJP government only in the upcoming elections.
शिल्प यहाँ पे है ही नहीं, यहाँ का कुछ उन्नति नहीं हो रहा है। यहाँ पे टीएमसी रहेगा तो वो पॉसिबल नहीं है। हम बीजेपी सरकार को ही चाहते हैं। ভালো লেগেছে উনি এসেছেন, আমাদের অবস্থাটা বুঝতে পেরেছেন, এসেছেন এখানে অবস্থা বললো। এবার এই জমিটা একটু ঠিকঠাক হলে তো ঠিকই।
PM Modi's public address from the grounds of Singur, which once hosted the Tata industry, speaks volumes about the vision of the current government of India for the development of West Bengal.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi not only held an inauguration-led project here at West Bengal, but from the land of Singur, he made it clear that if West Bengal needs to progress, they have to identify the right government for themselves. With camera person Sunil, this is Deepika reporting for DD India from Singur, West Bengal.
Prime Minister Modi earlier visited Assam, where he announced key infrastructure projects and addressed public concerns. From the announcement of new rail services to the Kaziranga elevated corridor project, his focus was on development, the one that respects nature. The Prime Minister also issued a stern warning against infiltrators in the northeastern state.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Assam on Sunday, receiving thunderous applause and a warm welcome as he arrived at Koliabor in Nagaon district. The Prime Minister laid the foundation stone for the ambitious Kaziranga elevated corridor project, valued at over 6,950 crore rupees. The project involves 4-laning of the Koliabor-Numaligarh stretch of National Highway 715. A key highlight is the 35-kilometer elevated wildlife corridor through Kaziranga National Park, designed to ensure safe animal movement, reduce human-wildlife conflict, and boost connectivity across the region. During the event, PM Modi flagged off 2 Amrit Bharat Express trains connecting Guwahati to Rohtak and Dibrugarh to Lucknow. Highlighting the importance of rail expansion, Prime Minister said rail links will boost social and economic growth in the northeast, noting Assam's rail budget has risen 5-fold to nearly 10,000 crore rupees annually.
जब हम रेल कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाते हैं तो इसका फायदा सामाजिक और आर्थिक दोनों स्तरों पर होता है। इसलिए नॉर्थ ईस्ट के लिए कनेक्टिविटी का विस्तार बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। जब कांग्रेस की केंद्र में सरकार थी तो असम को बहुत कम रेल बजट मिलता था, लगभग 2000 करोड़ रुपए। अब भाजपा सरकार में इसे बढ़ाकर लगभग 10,000 करोड़ रुपए सालाना कर दिया गया है।
Earlier, the Prime Minister reviewed the model of the Kaziranga elevated corridor project. Spanning 86 kilometers, the project aims to improve regional connectivity while ensuring protection of the park's rich biodiversity. Addressing the gathering, PM Modi recalled the days when rhino poaching was rampant, with dozens of one-horned rhinos killed in 2013 and 2014. He noted with pride that not a single case of poaching has been reported in 2025, attributing this achievement to strong political will and the collective efforts of the people of Assam. The Prime Minister also issued a stern warning against infiltrators, alleging they disturb demographic balance, attack local culture, seize jobs meant for the poor and youth, and fraudulently occupy tribal land, posing a grave threat to Assam and the nation's security.
साथियों, ये घुसपैठिए आबादी का संतुलन बिगाड़ रहे हैं, हमारी संस्कृति पर हमले कर रहे हैं, गरीब का, नौजवान का रोजगार छीन रहे हैं, आदिवासी क्षेत्रों में धोखे से लोगों की जमीन पर कब्जा कर रहे हैं। ये असम और देश की सुरक्षा दोनों के लिए बहुत बड़ा खतरा है।
Concluding his visit, PM Modi said Assam's development projects are opening new doors for the Northeast, giving fresh momentum to the Act East policy. He stressed that as Assam advances, so does the entire region, with government initiatives and public trust driving progress to new heights. Bureau Report, DD India.
UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan will pay an official visit to India on Monday at the invitation of Prime Minister Modi. This will be his third visit to India since assuming office as UAE President and the fifth in the past decade. This reflects the growing momentum in high-level bilateral engagements between the two nations. The visit is expected to further deepen the comprehensive strategic partnership and allow discussions on regional and global issues of mutual interest. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Sunday inaugurated the medium caliber ammunition manufacturing facility at the Solar Defence and Aerospace Limited in Nagpur, Maharashtra, marking a significant boost to India's defence manufacturing capabilities. The facility, developed by Solar Industries, is expected to enhance the domestic capacity for producing medium caliber ammunition for the Indian Armed Forces. The Defence Minister recalled the time when ammunition shortages hampered the country's defence preparedness, with the government realising the need to become self-reliant in the field. Poland's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski spoke exclusively to DD India about the growing partnership between India and Poland, emphasising that peace remains the foundation of global stability. Sikorski highlighted the importance of dialogue, cooperation between democratic nations and stronger India-Europe engagement.
We are at the 19th edition of the Jaipur Literature Festival, and increasingly we see how there are global speakers coming up and many global issues are being discussed over at the festival. So currently with us we have the Deputy PM of Poland. Let's talk to him in today's scenario, how India's leadership has been increasingly being helpful for increasing trade and investment, people-to-people connect between the countries.
We have a traditional friendship. Both of our countries were victims of colonialism. India gave refuge to my compatriots escaping from the Russian concentration camps during the Second World War. Today, India is a great tourist destination. I've contributed myself to your economy by going with my family to Kerala. We now have a direct flight between India, Delhi and Warsaw. Polish companies have invested in India. Every time you drink a can of Indian tonic water, the can is probably made by a Polish company here in India. And I hope we will negotiate a good free trade agreement between India and the European Union. We can do many more things together.
How India has been the, say, a big voice for non-violence, and how increasingly we see that there are many violent clashes happening all around the globe. So how do you see how important it is the themes of non-violence and peace to be set in between the people, and how to make people believe, people of your country to believe in the theme of non-violence?
Well, we have a somewhat similar experience in that in Europe we had two bloody world wars, and in India you still have unresolved territorial disputes. And I think we've both come to the conclusion that you shouldn't change borders either by armed aggression or by terrorism. Borders should be decided upon through legal procedures or by making them invisible to ordinary people.
It's a matter of great gratitude and appreciation that we are hearing such appreciation from a European, such an important European country. And this was Arnish Shah for DD India with Hanuman Jaiswal.
All right, you're watching DD India News. Time now for some sporting action. Well, in cricket, New Zealand has scripted history as they won their maiden one-day series in India following their 41-run victory in the third and the final ODI in Indore. The visitors won the three-match series 2-1 after they bundled out India for 296 runs. Virat Kohli scored a splendid 100 but ran out of partners while chasing 338 runs for victory. Kohli slammed 124 runs and shared two crucial partnerships with Nitish Kumar Reddy and Harshit Rana, but could not take the hosts over the line. Lakhs of devotees across India observed Mauni Amavasya with ritual baths, prayers and silence. From Prayagraj Sangam to Varanasi, Ayodhya, Haridwar and Tamil Nadu, people braved cold and fog conditions to take holy dips in India's sacred rivers. Well, elaborate arrangements ensured safety and discipline as faith and devotion marked this auspicious day of spiritual focus and purification. Take a look.
On Sunday, as dawn broke, lakhs of devotees gathered at the banks of holy rivers across the country to take a holy dip, offer prayers and seek blessings on the occasion of Mauni Amavasya. In Hinduism, Mauni Amavasya is a sacred day dedicated to observing maun or silence. It is believed that refraining from speech on this day helps calm the mind, purify thoughts and strengthen spiritual focus. In Prayagraj city of Uttar Pradesh, during the ongoing Magh Mela, pilgrims converged at the Sangam where the Ganga, Yamuna and mythical Saraswati rivers meet. Despite severe cold conditions and dense fog, devotees arrived from across the country in large numbers to take a holy dip.
कोहरे की वजह से ये जरूर है कि विजिबिलिटी कम हुई है और हम लोग वायरलेस सेट से हम लोग संपर्क में हैं एक दूसरे के उससे हम लोगों को बहुत फायदा हुआ है और पब्लिक आराम से आ रही है और वापसी मार्ग से आराम जा रही है। हम लोग हर मार्ग को जो आने वाला मार्ग है और जाने वाले मार्ग को हम खुद निरीक्षण भी कर रहे हैं।
According to some pilgrims, the arrangements made for their convenience this year are better than those they had experienced on a similar occasion in previous years.
पिछली बार भी हम लोग आए थे तो प्रशासन की व्यवस्था थोड़ी ढीली थी, उस हिसाब से इस साल काफी अच्छी व्यवस्था हुई है प्रशासन की भी।
Similar scenes of devotion were witnessed in the holy city of Varanasi, where a large number of people, both local and tourists, offered prayers on the ghats of the Ganga since early morning. In Ayodhya too, lakhs of devotees arrived since early morning to take a holy dip in the Saryu river. In the city of Haridwar in Uttarakhand too, a large number of devotees braved the cold conditions to take a holy dip in the Ganga and perform special rituals associated with Mauni Amavasya since early Sunday morning.
मान्यता बहुत है स्नान का, माघ महीने का स्नान पुण्य स्नान है। यहाँ नहाने से सारा पाप कष्ट सबसे मुक्ति मिल जाती है।
In the southern part of the country, the occasion is observed as Thai Amavasya. Across cities in Tamil Nadu like Thoothukudi, Trichy and Tanjavur, people gather to take a holy dip in sacred rivers and perform the various rituals associated with the festival.
That's all in this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live, and you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.